Jody, where do we begin? You're a baseball guy, certainly. So let's start there with the Phillies, who, after a 9-19 start to this season, made Rob Thompson the fall guy, I guess, Tuesday morning. Let me ask you, was the firing something that had to be done? And can this team still get back into wild card playoff contention?
Like your choice of phrase, had to be done. Do I think Rob Thompson was the main reason the Phillies have gotten off to this putrid start? No. He's on the list. I'm not saying Rob Thompson did a great job and everything else was wrong. Rob didn't have a great year either, but there were others having significantly worse years than him. But it's much easier to fire the manager than try and turn over an in-season roster. They've already made a couple of moves, releasing Walker, bringing up their top prospect, and the minor leagues are not going to be all called up in mass. So they had to do something just to try and shake it up. And I thought there was a chance that Rob was going to pay for it with his job, and he did. If Don Mattingly, somehow the new voice, gets this team turned around, I'll be happy for it, but I won't bet on it. I don't know that they necessarily upgraded at the position. I just think they needed a change, needed to do something different. And it's unfortunate Rob Thompson has to pay the price.
It's funny that they always word it as we need a new voice, but yet they only brought one. They brought the Lehigh Valley guy up, put him at third base, moved third base to the bench, and have a new manager. It's all the same people. It's all the same voices.
Didn't change much. And Mattingly and Rob Thompson are cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
They've been friends for a long time. Rob had no problem with him coming in to be the bench coach. I think he had to know that he was a safety net in case things went horribly bad, which they did, which I couldn't predict. I didn't see coming. But they're similar in a lot of different ways. So again, maybe it gets in the heads of the players that, hey, we cost a good guy his job. Shame on us. We got to focus in. We got to be better. If that's how it works, then yes, Dombrowski will get credit for nervy pulling the plug as quickly as he did. And if you're a Philly fan, you have to root for that. I'm also a Rob Thompson fan, so I'm kind of got some mixed emotions here, but Philly fandom will win out over time. The question is, can the Phillies win out over time enough to get themselves 90 win and stay in the playoff race?
Well, Jody, thank goodness for that Jesus Luzardo performance Tuesday night, because, man, that rotation needed that. The rotation was supposed to be the Phillies' strong point this season, but it's been pretty dismal over the first month. You agree?
Yes, and nice of Jesus Luzardo, who got a $150 million contract extension this offseason to show up and pitch like the pitcher he's supposed to be and was for the great majority of last year. He was good. He was dominant. Yes, that will always start things off right when your pitcher is throwing up scoreless innings. First guy they had all year go 7 innings, and he didn't give a run on any of those 7. I'm a Luzardo guy. I had no problems with the extension. I thought it was smart. I think it still will be smart, but maybe he's a big Don Mattingly fan. I don't know why he decided to make last night his ace-like debut for the Phillies this season.
Hey, Jody, do you ever remember a team coming out of spring training and just be ice cold? Basically, the offense is cold, the defense is cold, the pitching's cold, the base running's cold. They almost look like they're totally unprepared, and we know that's not true.
Yeah, I have seen teams start seasons like this before, but oftentimes they were bad teams to begin with who didn't get good enough during the offseason. A team that had won 94 games, back 95, 96 back-to-back seasons, and with the high expectations the Phillies had. No, I've never seen any team get off to this bad a start. And the thing that's even scarier about it all is I know Wheeler just came back. Wheeler started the year injured. We knew he was going to be injured. It wasn't like he got hurt the first day of the season. Oh, my God, now he's out for a month. No, everyone knew that he wasn't going to be coming back. If anything came back early, they've been relatively healthy, and they've been this bad. Other teams that I've seen get off to bad starts have a cascade of injuries that you don't see coming. This is as bad as I've ever seen for a team to start a season with expectations as high as the Phillies came into it this year.
The Phillies core guys aren't getting any younger. Might they need to make some substantial changes next winter if it doesn't play out this year?
Distinct possibility. We'll see how this season plays out. There has to be some changes because the non-change run it back decision this year has already kind of recorded itself as not the best plan. So there'll be changes next year. But we've got a long way to go, got a long season yet to go. I still think this team is as talented as I thought it was when I predicted 95 wins at the beginning of the offseason. Tougher now, the hole that they've got to dig themselves out of, but I'm not going to write off the season just yet, and I still think they're a very viable National League playoff team.
But Jody, as we talked about Rob Thompson, Dave Dombrowski can't come out of this thing unscathed. I don't think Chet and I talked about this several times. I don't think this was as good a team going into this season as last year's team coming out of this season with the moves they made. I certainly didn't expect this start, but I think Dombrowski's got to have a whole lot to do with this.
He does. And if you ask me to line up all the people that were most responsible for this terrible start, Dombrowski would be ahead of Rob Thompson on that list. Okay. I don't think he did a good enough job at putting the roster together, sticking by a couple of the guys that he did. He didn't have to. But apparently John Middleton wasn't going to fire both the general manager and the manager. That'd be very difficult to do, to get rid of your two major movers and shakers in one fell swoop in season. That's a move you got to make at the end of a season and give them all off season to correct it. But the ice certainly has to have gotten thinner under Dombrowski's feet. Didn't crack like the way it did for Rob Thompson. But yeah, he's a little bit more on record under the spotlight after this start that the Phillies have gotten off to, and also with the firing of Rob Thompson. If Mattingly comes in here and does no better, guess what? We may see 2 in-season changes. Maybe they'll give a new general manager a head start before the season ends for 2027.
Yeah, going to be an interesting next few months for sure. Hey, let's turn our attention now to those Philadelphia Eagles and especially last week's draft. The Birds traded up in the first round to select wide receiver Mekhi Lemon at number 20 overall. And then Vanderbilt tight end Eli Stowers fell to them in the second round at number 54. Most of the draft experts out there like these guys a lot. They gave the Eagles a A or A minus for those two picks. What do you think?
I like it too. Howie Roseman doing Howie Roseman things in Howie season. Yes, I did say ahead of time, I thought there was a distinct possibility they were going to take a wide receiver in the first round because most people predict A.J. Brown will be an ex-Eagle, even more so after they called Mr. Lemon's name out. You knew that was going to happen. I thought it was going to happen, but as I said all along, wasn't happening till after June 1st. So if the Eagles wanted to replace A.J. with a wide receiver, there wasn't a guy who's got the kind of potential that Lemon has on the free agent market. So they had to do it in the draft. They really liked the player. They were willing to jump up a couple spots to take him. I thought he was a stud and a star at USC. I project him to be a very good, if not star wide receiver in the NFL. Him and Devontae Smith are a unique pairing. He's known and seen what Devontae and AJ have done, a little bit different wide receivers. These two wide receivers now will be 1-2, a little more similar, and it'll be interesting to see how they design the offense to get the most out of the upgraded receiving core that they've now put together. And Jalen Hurts, who had an offseason last year, so the pressure's on him a little bit this year. I'm a Jalen guy, so I'm believing that he will be able to make the adjustments and fit in a new system they'll be working. He does have enough talent. If the offensive line can get back and stay healthy, then, yeah, I think the Eagle offense could be very good again this season.
Well, I think under the radar on draft day was the Jonathan Grenard trade, which I think a lot of people really didn't pay a lot of attention to. Maybe they didn't know who he was. But the Eagles made a trade. They gave up 2 third-round picks for him and paid him $50 million guaranteed plus $100 million total. Basically, they're trading out Jalen Phillips for Grenard, and Grenard is probably a little bit better player.
He has had a longer career and put up more numbers. Phillips was a really nice fit last year, and I think the Eagles really tried to get him to come back, but he got blown away by another offer. And again, it shows you that Howie Roseman will stick within what he believes. Players he likes, he's going to try and get. Players he thinks are worth it, he'll sign in advance. Those that are debatable, like a Jalen Phillips, he's going to let the market determine it a little bit. And the bidding just went a little bit too high for him, but he wasn't going to just try and force feed a young player into that position. They went out and got a veteran who's been there, done that, already had double-digit sacks in his career. I thought the contract was it was less than Jalen Phillips, and it was only $50 million guaranteed. So basically, it's a 2-year deal. It's a 4-year deal. 2-year deal. It's dressed up to be a 4-year deal. May turn into a 4-year deal, but only 2 that the Eagles couldn't use and negotiate their way out of after 2 years. Again, smart trade by Howie Roseman, fills a void, fills a need. 2 threes, 1 in each of the next 2 years. Not an outrageous price to pay for a guy who's had double-digit sacks 2 out of the last 3 years in the NFL. Again, Howie doing Howie things, and he improved the football team.
The Eagles were left with 1 third-round pick after all the dealings, and it turned into Miami's Markel Bell. Some people really liked this pick. Some people not so much. He could be the successor to Lane Johnson. I'll tell you one thing. The guy is huge. What do you think of this one, Jody?
Big boy is exactly right. I'm reserving judgment because a lot of the scouting reports I read talked about him being a project, that it's going to take time for him to get up to NFL speed. He might even have to drop a couple pounds if you're going to be playing him outside of tackle. Some suggest he's better suited at guard, and maybe that's the way the Eagle goes, that at some point they move him inside. The thing that makes me a little squeamish about this is I'd feel so much better if Jeff Stoutland was still here and the guy who is going to be doing the tutelage of the newest Eagle offensive lineman. Still haven't completely comprehended what went wrong. I know he did a podcast with the Kelsey brothers this week and kind of shared the blame around, which hasn't always been Stout's modus operandi, but it's unfortunate. It's a loss. I'm here to sing the praises of Howie Roseman, but the entire organization, I think, mishandled the Jeff Stoutland situation. I wasn't behind closed doors. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Stoutland just didn't want to hear anything about his role changing. He just said, see you later, bye, I'm out the door. But I thought the Eagles could have and should have done more to make sure Jeff Stoutland stayed right here in Philadelphia.
A couple things about Bell. Chet, you showed that massive picture. He weighs in 6'9", 346. That's a big human. Only a 1-year starter at Miami because he was bouncing around JUCO and whatever. He's only 21 years old. But the number that caught me as I was prepping for the show a little bit, 558 snaps he was on the field, 0 sacks. So
that's pretty good. Now, they had a very good offensive line across the board down there in Miami. So he wasn't asked to double. He wasn't asked to do specific special type things. But that's a number that cannot be denied. And, had a real good final season in college football at Miami. If he can take a step back and learn this year, I think he's got a chance to be a real nice player. But we got to see who's going to be doing the teaching. I did mention this on my show during the week. The Eagles as a group, I'm not an Eagle beat writer. I'm not there all the time, but I got a bunch of very good friends who are. And to a man, every single one of them likes all the guys they have on the offensive line. Not only as players, but as guys, as teammates, as Eagles. So maybe if Lane Johnson knows he's nearing the end, maybe he takes on the role as a mentor and gives the young man the tutelage that he needs. I think you kind of have to hope for that when you've got a new first-year offensive line coach coming in.
Well, the primary free agent period is behind us. The draft is behind us. All the coaching staff is, in place now. What else do the Eagles need to do to get back to being a legitimate Super Bowl contender in 2026?
Like I said, Howie checked a lot of the boxes. We knew what the Eagles' potential open spots, weaknesses were coming into the draft. And he basically played to all of them and tried to come up with a replacement in all areas of need. He waited a little bit on safety. You don't take a safety until the 6th round. You watch a guy like Blankenship go out the door. I like Marcus Epps. I've liked him both eras here in Philadelphia. Came in, did a good job last year, part of a championship team previously. He's now in his 30s. That's the age you got to be careful with D-backs in the National Football League. I don't know if Michael Carter II, who's a former Jet, so I knew him from the Jets. I think of him more as a slot corner than a safety. He's going to be in the safety mix. Makuba flashed last year, but was off the field as much as he was on the field. I still think safety is a major question mark for the Eagles. And if you ask me what position I think is most likely, they either make a trade, I don't know that there's a real free agent left out there. I go, oh, okay, he's a starter. So when you get to the end of the preseason and people are talking trades and trying to fit roster spots, wouldn't be surprised if Howie Roseman tries to add another piece at safety.
Yeah, and I was going to circle back to that and I thought we were moving on. Cole Wisniewski was that late round safety, kind of an interesting guy to me. He was at North Dakota State, where he was All-American, won a couple national championship, ends up at Texas Tech for a year. 6'3", 219 as a safety. That's a big kid to be playing back there. I don't know enough about him to know if he can play or not.
Nor do I, but I know Reed Blankenship went undrafted. No one took Reed Blankenship. The Eagles were smart enough to sign him and benefit from having him. So I'm not dismissing him just because he was a sixth rounder. Coming off the draft, you got your draft list, you got your scouting reports, you put him in what order you think that he should be. He was drafted right about where he was ranked. So it wasn't like there was a reason that he fell down. The Eagles can benefit from it. No, he went where he was supposed to go, and he's going to have to improve his play to become a Reed Blankenship-like safety in the National Football League. He might. He could be better than Reed Blankenship, or he might not be worthy of an NFL roster spot. We're going to have to wait to camp to see.
That's right.
All right, Jody, it is late April, and both the Flyers and 76ers are playing postseason action. So who would have thunk that? Should the 76ers look to deal Paul George and maybe even Joel Embiid in the offseason if they get eliminated, in the first round?
If it's possible, I would say either one of those guys should be at least discussed. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be easy to trade either one because of their salaries. Embiid looked pretty damn good last night, but still, the process is the process. If they win this series against the Celtics, I'll do some apologizing. This season has been a disappointment for me because Joel has missed as much time as he did. Paul George takes the suspension, which was completely unnecessary. Hey, this was the season where they were supposed to be a playoff team. So can I get excited because they got even with the Boston Celtics? They didn't get bounced by the Boston Celtics in the first real round, not the play-in round. No. So I think all the cards are on the table for this upcoming offseason. Daryl Morey should have no restrictions. He should make every player who's not named Tyrese Maxey or VJ Edgecombe on this team available. We'll see if they get anything done. I'll continue to root for them here. I'll be really pleasantly surprised if they beat the Celtics. But I hear what you're saying, Chet. This team is probably in need of a shakeup. Just playing it back, running it back, to this point hasn't worked for the Phillies. I don't know that the Sixers want to go down that same road.
Jody, you've watched a ton of basketball in your day. Joel Embiid is a mystery to me. The guy can not play for 14 days. All of a sudden, he can play. He can play 35 minutes, and he can score 35 points. Is he just this good of a player? All the other crap aside, when he's on the court, man, it's hard to understand how it happens to me.
He's a stone cold stud. He's a talent. He's an MVP. He won an MVP. He's going to have to do some more in his career to become a Hall of Fame level player, but he surely is capable of doing that if he can play enough games. I can't just bring myself to say all that other stuff aside. He misses games. He's injured. He dictates terms when he's going to play and not play. If the team tries to dictate terms and he doesn't like it, he's ready to throw the team under the bus. I've had my fair share of Embiid, and if Chet mentioned should they trade him? If they trade him, it won't bother me in the least. I don't think they will. I think we're going to have to continue to deal with the good and the bad of Joel Embiid for the rest of the contract that he's under. But did it shock me that he threw in a great game last night? No, he's that good. He's that talented. But all those other things are part of what Joel Embiid is.
Yeah. I just hope at this point we get a Game 6 victory by the 76ers and then a Game 7 up in Boston. And, there's at least hope, but who knows? Let's turn to the Flyers, Jody.
Forever the optimist, Jody. He's forever the optimist.
I like it, Chet.
Jody, back when the Olympics were happening, the Flyers had a 3.8% chance of making the postseason. Here they are, one win away from a first-round victory over the Penguins and a chance to meet the Carolina Hurricanes in round 2. They got to finish off round 1, though. But how impressed are you by what's happened with these Flyers over the last month and a half?
Very. And I've said this on my show on WIP, had to admit, had to apologize. The Flyers were a dead team walking going to the Olympics, and I said, I'm not giving up yet. I'm going to give them a chance. They're coming out of the Olympics. If they get red hot, I'll certainly stay on that bandwagon. And they played well enough. And then they had a home game against the Rangers. And at the time, the Rangers were the second or third worst team in the National Hockey League. And the Rangers came in and dominated them in their own barn, 4-1. It wasn't as close as the score indicated. And I said, that shows me enough. They just can't. This team's not ready. They're too young. They're not ready. They're not going to make the playoffs. And then they go on this amazing winning streak and come further back, amount of points down with X amount of games to play. Biggest short-term comeback in the history of the National Hockey League. So with the way they finished, I said, what the hell? Pittsburgh's not a world beater. Maybe they can beat Pittsburgh. If they can keep Crosby in check, yeah, why can't they beat Pittsburgh? So I got back onto the bandwagon with both feet after I apologized for getting off. So they've accepted me back. They're going to get one of these next 2 games. Next round, Carolina Hurricane, going to be a tougher matchup. But again, there's no beast in the East. So Flyer fans, dream the dream. What the hell? Why not?
Yeah,
that's right. And it needs to be tonight. Not that I'd be scared to death of Game 7 in Pittsburgh, but I'd be a lot happier with a Game 6 win at home.
And with the noise that they've been making down at the Exmo Center, I have not been to either of the 2 games, watch both of them every second, dropping the puck to final horn. And it sounded like the house was rocking. I did a show on Monday night. Flyer fans checked in. Jody, I've been going to the Flyer games, playoff games, not often enough, for the last 20 years. And it's as loud as it ever had been previous. So, yeah, the Flyer fans, hopefully tremendously loud tonight. Maybe a little lift for the Fly guys and help them dismiss the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Jody, I got to ask you about this. I heard something last week on WIP. I think it was from Joe DeCamera, and I somehow never heard this before. Let me see if you will confirm this. The term flyered up was originated by none other than Jody Mac.
That would be correct. It was a
yes, sir. There you go.
Phrase that I coined some 28, 29 years ago, whenever it was. Glenn Macnow and I were partners at the time. We were out on a charity dinner. People bid for a dinner with Mac and Mac. We went out with them. They made a big donation to the Eagles charities, whatever it was. And they were Flyer fans. And I think between you and I, they were more excited to be there, talk Flyer hockey with Macnow than me. But I joined in, and they were in the midst of having a good season, playoff type season, playoff run. And I asked one of the 2 gentlemen who would have say, how flyered up are you about this team? And he said, I've never heard anybody say that before. I said, I don't know that I've ever said it before. It just kind of came off my tongue. And he goes, that's great. Yeah, I'm flyered up. You should be talking about getting flyered up on the air tomorrow, which Glenn and I did. Yes, I did make a phone call to find out about getting some coverage as to it being my trademark statement. It was a lot of work. It was a pain in the rear end. I said, this might not even take off. Why am I bothering with this? Let the Flyer fans just take it and run with it and enjoy. My wife still hasn't forgiven me for that because she thinks we could have made a killing with it. But
you'd be sitting on a beach in Hawaii or something right now watching this game on TV.
Yeah, but then I wouldn't be on Philly Pressbox with you.
Wait a minute, guys. There we go.
That gets me fired up right there. I am ready for Flyer hockey tonight.
That's right. Hey, Jody, you obviously you're close with Danny Briere and Jonesy and Rick Tocchet. What do you think of the job those guys have done? And I'll say especially Tocchet, since it's his first year, they really turned this thing around.
The only of those 3 that I'm close with is Jonesy because of the WIP contact. Good dude, great dude. Shouldn't say good, great dude. Briere's done a really good job. Some of the minor trades that he made during the offseason have paid big type dividends. and I was absolutely all for the naming of Rick Tocchet as the new head coach. Did I know Tocchet was going to come in and do as good a job as he did? No. Did I know he's going to be better than the previous Flyer coach? Yes. That was a bad hiring, and I said it from day number one. No, he has come in. He has given the guys the chance to grow, which I don't think the previous coach ever did. But he has also laid in a foundation, and they do things the way he wants them to do it. And time was going to make this team better. Peaks and valleys, ups and downs, a little tough to handle during the season, but they're peaking at the right time come playoffs. And if they get an advanced playoff round, this season has to be an unmitigated success in my mind.
All right. Last thing now, Jody. It was great seeing you and Glenn last week down at Kings Road Brewing in Haddonfield. That was for a taping of an upcoming What's Brewing show. 2 shows, actually. And I got to tell you, my absolute favorite moment of the afternoon was early in the second show. You guys are each enjoying a beer on camera. And Glenn says to you, as part of his script, I guess, Jody, what are you drinking? And you said something to the effect of, I'm drinking... I don't have any fucking idea what I'm drinking.
Yeah, I had it written
I did not
down,
make the TV show, by the way.
Couldn't see where I wrote my notes. Yeah, that was if you're taping, you can always go back and re-air. Thanks for telling everybody, Chad. Yeah,
I'm drinking a garage beer right now, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Kelsey would be proud.
Very good. Yeah, we have fun. Whenever Mac now invite me on his beer show, get to sit around, drink beer, talk sports. How can you have a better afternoon than that?
Exactly.
There you go. Hey, Jody, before we let you go, let everybody know what you got going on with your WIP show, whatever else you have social media wise, and let them know.
Always take any followers I can get on Twitter at Jody Macman, JodyMacman. Doing my 2 days, 2 shifts a week on WIP. Mostly Saturday mornings now these days, 7 to 10. It's not a every weekend thing, but a most weekend thing. And I'll show up on a Monday or a Tuesday night, depending on when they need me most. But if you want to know who's going to win the Kentucky Derby, you better show up at Parks on Friday. We're going to be doing our pre-Kentucky Derby seminar early. Myself, Dick Girardi, and Jessica Paquette, the race caller from Philly Park. We've done it as a threesome the last 3 Triple Crown races. Last year, I did give out not only the winner, but the exacta in the Kentucky Derby.
Wow.
If you want to know who I am going to be wagering on come Saturday, you better get yourself up to Parks on Friday, starting early, 11 a.m.
Excellent.
There you go. Fantastic. Well, Jody, as always, we appreciate you coming by to join us, and let's do it again.
Promise me you'll have me back before your next anniversary show.
Absolutely.
It is a deal.
Done deal.